So welcome everybody to Facts and Faith Fridays. We are very thankful that you all chose to join us today on this beautiful Friday as dare I say, summer is coming to a close. The students are arriving on campus as we speak. And so thank you again. We are going to get started today with, we're going to go ahead and get started today with a prayer from Dr. Ponder.
Let's pray together. Again, dear God, we're so thankful for this opportunity to gather where we get to put together and partner our facts and faith so that we might be faithful servants in the communities in which we are assigned. Help us to receive the information that will be presented on this day. We ask also your blessings upon the presenters and those who coordinate our time together. We're grateful, dear God, that we have this opportunity to gather this information so that we might share it with all those who stand in need. Bless us again, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Ponder. So welcome again, everyone. We had a pretty exciting agenda planned for you all today. We, as you saw in the announcement about Facts and Faith, we're going to focus a little bit on some prevention and talk about skin cancer or melanoma to be precise. And we're going to get some opportunities to hear about an excellent program to help to support and empower college students. And so we hope that you all are able to take away things today. One of the things we're going to try at the end of the session is to have a dialogue about key takeaways. And so at the very end, I'm going to ask you about some things that resonated with you, things that you're going to take away from this session, and you'll feel free to unmute yourself or to drop those things in the chat. So we're going to start off today talking about melanoma. Now, melanoma is one of those topics that we, as far as I know, I've been around Facts and Faith now for, I believe, its entirety. We haven't really talked about too much. And so we try to talk ever so often about different cancers, as many of us here represent the Massey Cancer Center. And we're really happy to have today an organization, AIM and Melanoma. Now, I was very excited to see that AIM wanted to come to present to us today. Back when I was a teenager eons ago, I played field hockey, and a friend of mine, it used to trouble me a little bit that before we would go to we would travel to play at the beaches and things, and she would always go to the tanning bed. I never really understood it, but she never wanted to go to the beach without going to the tanning bed. And you fast forward to when we got to college, she played hockey at Wake Forest. She graduated and started coaching in St. Louis, and she had this mole on her back. And she went to go get it removed, and come to find out it was skin cancer. And her prognosis was not so good. And at the age of 25, she passed away. And I think that was the first time I really kind of heard of this, and it really hit close to home to me. And I think this is something that we don't talk enough about. It can impact all individuals. There are different types of skin cancers. And so we're going to, learn something about melanoma today. And we're definitely going to bring other individuals back to try to learn more about this. So I have the pleasure today to introduce Sam. So Sam Guild is with us today, and Sam is the president of AIM and Melanoma. She has a successful career, left a successful career, but she's still a litigation attorney to become the director of education, public policy, and advocacy for AIM and Melanoma. The foundation, her mother, Valerie Guild, founded after Charlie Guild, Sam Guild's sister, and Valerie Guild's daughter died of melanoma, and that was in 2003. Sam considers AIM and Melanoma a labor of love, and the family, she says, has one overarching goal: to end melanoma. So AIM's success is a testament to their hard work and the enduring spirit of hope and helping others that Charlie Guild left behind. So we're really happy to have Sam with us today. She's going to, she has a presentation for us, but before we get started with Sam's presentation, she actually made us aware of a video that we thought would be helpful for everyone to watch and just give us some background information about melanoma, about things to look for. And like I said, many of us may have questions. Unfortunately, we don't have a clinician per se on the call today, but if you do have questions, put them in the chat. We do have a clinician at Massey Cancer Center, and we can get some answers for you. So Rachel, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and sharing your screen for the video.
I think that's actually my cue to go first to
okay. The there you go. Like I said, let's work it out. Thank you, Sam.
So, Dr. Sutton, first of all, thank you so much for inviting us and giving us an opportunity to share the information about melanoma. I also want to say thank you so much for sharing your personal experience. I think the way to eventually beat this disease is for all of us to give back in some way. You talked a little bit about where I came from, and I'll share more information, but I think with all of us taking those personal experiences and making something come out of these terrible, tragedies, we can eventually end melanoma in our lifetime. So thank you so much for using this venue as an opportunity to raise awareness about the disease. As Dr. Sutton said, I will be playing a video for you called How Melanoma Grows and Spreads. It is the second in a series of Melanoma 101 videos that is hosted by our very own Melissa Wilson. She is our Ask an Expert. Unfortunately, she is unable to join us today. She is also the lead physician assistant for the melanoma program at UPMC Hillman Cancer Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So she's in clinic today, but she is available. One of the things that she does do is that if you do have questions that we're not able to address today, she can answer those questions, whether you're from the general public, or whether you are a patient or family of someone going through this disease. She can help answer those questions. In addition, she also hosts a webinar series called From the Clinic to the Living Room. And then there's this Melanoma 101 series that we're about to share with you in just a moment. However, before we do that, I do want to familiarize yourself with 3 clinical terms that I think will be very helpful in understanding the video. The first term is melanin. It is the protein that gives color to your skin, hair, and eyes and helps provide protection against UV radiation. There are melanocytes. These are the pigment producing cells that make melanin. And then the term melanoma, which is the deadliest form of skin cancer that arises in the melanocytes, excuse me. So without further delay, if we could please play Melissa's video. Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's Melissa Wilson, physician assistant and Ask an Expert for AIM at Melanoma. Thank you again for coming back to join me for another lecture with Melanoma 101. Today we're going to talk about how does melanoma form. Obviously, if you've watched any of our prior Melanoma 101 lecture, we talked about initially how melanocytes get to where they are supposed to be and what their function is. The fact that they produce melanin, which not only gives us our skin pigment, but also protects our skin from DNA damage, which in some way, shape, or form can come from either the UV light or other mutations that can occur in our skin, either from trauma or burning or damage, whatever the case may be. So you know, or you should already know, how normal development of melanocytes happens. So here we're going to talk about what happens when those melanocytes actually grow abnormally, because that's where melanoma actually comes from. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at this little picture here, because if you remember from our prior How Do Mole Form lecture, you know that melanocytes are present in this junction between the epidermis and the dermis, and you know that they're pretty evenly spaced for the most part, and when they form a little aggregate cluster, that's when a mole forms. And so in a normal, quote normal, because no mole is completely normal, but when you look at a normal mole, you'll see that it has very regular borders and appears very much normal in color, and that's what it looks like. So this is this part of your skin you can see. So this little cluster of melanocytes gives rise to a mole. However, when melanocytes in that area don't grow normally because of DNA damage from whatever source, which the most common, just so that you know, is UV light. When that happens and the cells become damaged, it actually damages the DNA. And the reason that that's important is the DNA in a cell is what tells the cell what its job is, how it's supposed to grow. It's basically the blueprint for for the cell that tells us what its job is and what it's supposed to do. So when that DNA is damaged, sometimes your immune system actually will go back and it's a very complex system, but sometimes it'll go back and actually repair that damage. Unfortunately, sometimes it won't go back and repair that damage. And when that happens, the cell is abnormal and lacks normal function. One of those functions can actually be its inability to recognize when it's supposed to stop growing. So on a very basic level, when cells grow and they touch each other, they know that they're supposed to stop. Cancer cells have a lot of abnormalities in them, but one of the things is that they lack that inhibition to stop growing, and they lack like the life cycle that they're supposed to have. And so what actually ends up happening is that the cell will continue to divide itself and continue to grow, and it will clump up on itself, and so then it sort of forms this tumor. And in melanoma, those cells grow up and they grow down and they form this big giant mass. And so then what you see on the skin is an atypical proliferation of melanocytes that actually may have irregular borders. They might have areas that are raised. As this cluster of cells continues to grow and it needs more blood, a lot of times it'll grow deeper down into the skin looking for blood vessels. It will sometimes cause some ulceration on the skin because that part of the mole is actually dying because it's not getting adequate blood supply for its size. Melanomas, by and large, will grow out before they grow down looking for blood. And that's something, again, that we can talk about in later lectures when we look at the different types of melanomas. But, what the take-home message is that DNA damage causes the cell to function completely abnormally and for whatever reason, not stop growing when it's appropriate and not have the normal life cycle of a cell. And so then it continues to grow and make copies of itself that are also abnormal. And over time, that forms a tumor. The reason that this is important to understand is that it frames a lot of the things that you see on pathology reports in terms of mitoses, which is division of cells, and Breslow depth, which tells us how much clumping has extended down into the skin of these abnormal cells. And so there are a lot of components that understanding the biology of the melanoma actually can make all the other things make a lot more sense. I really hope that you have learned how melanomas form based upon their atypical melanocyte formation and DNA damage. I really look forward to showing you lots more things in our Melanoma 101 lecture. If you have questions, please reach out to me on the Ask an Expert website, either by phone or by email. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a wonderful day.
So as Dr. Sutton mentioned, my name is Sam Guild. I'm the president of AIM at Melanoma. Yes, unfortunately, I came into the melanoma community in not a way that anyone else would, a person would typically like to do it. You can go to the next slide. So I started with the foundation myself personally in 2008. But my journey with melanoma started before that. It was in February of 2003 that my sister Charlie was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma. At the time, there was only one treatment option that had been approved by the FDA for stage 4 melanoma patients. And my mother, of course, automatically became her provider or caregiver, and worked with the providers directly to do what she could when my sister was not in the hospital. The prognosis for stage 4 patients was 9 months, and my sister did pass away just before Thanksgiving in 2003. And one of the things that my mother wished she had had during my sister's illness, not just more treatments, but also support and resources to assist her in caring for my sister and learning more about the disease. And so with it, my mother was not one to let things go unanswered. So in February of 2004, She founded the foundation, and we are now the largest international melanoma foundation dedicated to finding more effective treatments and ultimately the cure for melanoma. So although we're based here in the US, we also provide support in Europe, Australia, Latin America, and Canada. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to quickly go through a little bit about what we can offer in case we're able to help any of you. And one of the other two pillars, the first is innovation in melanoma research. We support legislation, policy, and advocacy, and then information and support. Next slide. So we don't do your typical type of research. We don't give grants to PIs and to fund specific research projects. We are actually managing and funding our own research. And our most critical research project at the time is an International Melanoma Tissue Bank Consortium. So we have 4 sites here in the US, 2 in Australia, and we are actually collecting fresh frozen primary tissue that's fully annotated, blood, data, and so forth. And our plans, hopefully as soon as next year, is that because we own the data and the tissue, we can start accepting applications for researchers who want to obtain some of it. So as indicated, we also do legislation, policy, and advocacy. So we are involved in 3 areas of legislation that directly affect melanoma patients and their families, actually all skin cancers. Since Dr. Sutton talked recently about skin cancer. So our biggest one, and the one that we're most known well for, is indoor tanning. We are leading the effort here in the US to ban all minors under the age of 18 from indoor tanning devices. Our first success was in 2011 when California became the first state. About half the states now prohibit minors under 18 from using the devices. The other states have various forms of restrictions, and our hope is that the FDA will follow suit very soon. We also support oral parity legislation in its simplest form. Some of the cancer treatments are given orally, some are given via UV infusion UVs, and they are treated differently. Oral drugs are often have large deductibles and copays, and we are trying to eliminate that. And then some of the more obvious ones is child sun safety education in schools. Our biggest success was in Arizona, where they now provide sun safety education K through 8. And of course, we support children carrying and bringing and using sunscreen in the schools. Next slide. So again, information and support, that is by far our biggest initiatives. We provide education and information to not just the general public and patients, but also to healthcare providers as well throughout the US and globally. In 2023, over 186,000 cases of melanoma will be diagnosed just in the US. That is invasive and non-invasive cases. Next slide. And again, Dr. Sutton, I mentioned it to you earlier, but if anyone has questions as I'm going through the slides, I'm more than happy. Oops, go back. There we go. I'm more than happy to answer those as we go through, or we can wait for them in the end.
Well, Sam, since you said that, we did have a question. So Dr.
Okay.
Ross asked the question. You were talking about the tanning, and so he was asking why are teenagers banned from indoor tanning? He said, "I'm not a fan of tanning, just inquiring."
So, and I'm actually going to get to that.
Okay.
So, if you don't mind, we can hold it up because I actually have a slide that talks about indoor tanning. But really, in the simplest forms, you're still developing, and you have most of your exposure before the 18, and it's sort of like with cigarettes. I guess it's sort of the best way, the best analogy that we use. We don't allow minors in the US to, and in many states, even up to 21, to smoke cigarettes. There's a sense that you lack the knowledge and the ability to make certain judgments. And so that is in the simplest form. It's since the UV is a known carcinogen, and it is difficult for minors to make good decisions. We want to protect them just like we do with seatbelts and everything else. So there are most melanomas develop as a result of UV exposure. They believe about 90% of melanomas develop because of the UV exposure. And the most obvious one is UV that comes directly from the sun. So we actually, the sun reaches us, those rays, in 3 different ways. The first is directly from the sun, scattered from the open sky, and then reflected by the environment. So for example, even in, if you're out in the snow, you actually are receiving UV exposure because it is reflecting off of the snow. And we know that tanning is DNA damage. So if you're outdoor tanning, you are exposing yourself to the UV rays, which is penetrating your skin's epidermis and dermis, and then causing damage to the cells in both the layers. Next slide. So you asked about tanning. So if you, tanning alone is incredibly dangerous for you. It doesn't matter whether it comes in just simply tanning or if it's a sunburn, but we know your risk of melanoma doubles if you've had more than 5 sunburns in your lifetime, and 1 or more blistering sunburns in childhood could double your lifetime melanoma risk. And you can develop a burn, although it's not a sunburn, but you can develop burns in tanning devices. So that is certainly something to be cognizant of. Next slide. So again, most of the UV that people are exposed to does come from the sun, but there is a segment of the population that does use indoor tanning devices. And so I hope this slide helps answer the question that came up earlier. So we know that indoor tanning is linked to melanoma. The UV radiation from these devices, whether it's a bed or a sun lamp or some other type of device, is a known carcinogen, just like the type of carcinogen agent that you get from smoking. And that using indoor tanning beds and other indoor devices before the age of 35 increases your risk of melanoma by 59%. Individuals who have used a tanning device 10 or more times in their lives have a 34% increased risk of developing melanoma compared to those who have never used a tanning device. And we know that even 1 or 2 tanning device sessions can cause harm to you. The World Health Organization, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the National Cancer Institute, AIM at Melanoma, and many other organizations strongly recommend that no one under the age of 18 use a tanning device. Next slide. So I think it's really important to know, how can we prevent melanoma? We're not going to not go into the sun, right? And we do know that people of all skin tones can develop melanoma. So even if you've never had a sunburn, you can develop melanoma. And I wanted to stop for a second and give some statistics, even though they're not up on the slide, but I thought this might be helpful to, so we know that non-Hispanic whites have the highest rate of developing melanoma. That is 28 cases per 100,000. But as I indicated, all skin tones can develop melanoma. 7 per 100,000 in American Indians, 5 per 100,000 in Hispanics, and 1 per 100,000 in Blacks and Pacific Islanders and Asians. So we know that all individuals can develop melanoma, and so we all need to take measures to prevent it. So here are some of the things that people can do. Of course, protect yourself from the sun's UV rays. This is probably the best way to reduce your risk of melanoma. And then, of course, refrain from tanning both outdoors and indoors. And since we know that UV damage does build up over time, so even tanning every once in a while can have unintended consequences. Next slide. So the most obvious thing that people know about preventing melanoma, we often hear about it in the news, is sunscreen, and sunscreen. We know that this is a vital part of protecting your skin from UV rays. But just putting it on is not enough. It has to be the right type of sunscreen, and it has to be applied correctly. Otherwise, you're really not getting the full advantage of using this product. So starting off with, you should have an SPF of 30 or higher. This will appear on the bottles. And you want to select a broad spectrum sunscreen that offers protection from both UVA and UVB radiation. And again, that will appear on the bottles. And don't forget, when you apply it, you need to apply it to all areas that are going to be exposed to the sun. Often people forget things like back of the ears, the back of the hands, back of the neck, between the toes if you're going to be walking around with flip-flops, for example, and they do have lip balm to cover your lips. Application, as I mentioned, is incredibly important in how you put it on. So, but you also need to remember to leave at least 20 minutes, have it put on your body 20 minutes before leaving your home, because it needs that time to absorb into your skin. And the standard rule of thumb is to reapply every 2 hours and more frequently on the days with a high UV index. And that can be found at the EPA's website. Another thing to look for is making sure that it's water resistant. There's no sunscreen that is waterproof or sweat proof. So for example, if you jump into a pool and get out, you should reapply right away. Again, it does come off. And again, if you are sweating more than usual or just sweating, you should reapply even if the 2 hours are not up. Next slide. Perfect. And then, of course, being sun safe. These are just some examples of being sun safe. You want to protect your skin, protect your head, and protect your eyes. So again, we've all heard about, protective clothing. There's lots of clothing out there that have SPF in it. You can just check the tags. People often have lots of questions about it. So, washing it, there are certain instructions on how to do it. It can wear down over time. So those are things you should look into if you do buy that type of clothing. Of course, the best UV protection also comes from long sleeve shirts and pants made from closely knit materials in darker colors. So to give you an example of why darker colors, so a white shirt only gives you an SPF of 7. And when it gets wet, that SPF does decrease. And so if you're going to wear a white shirt, please be sure to wear sunscreen underneath it and to reapply accordingly. Again, protecting your head, you want to cover your head with a wide brim hat. So when selecting the hat, you want to make sure that it covers your eye, your ears, your neck, and any of those areas that are most difficult to protect due to your body movement and lack of or insufficient coverage. Yes, I go to baseball games as well, and I do wear baseball hats. And so when you do that, please be sure to make sure you have enough sunscreen on your ears and on your neck and so forth, because you aren't getting coverage there. So that often comes up. And then protecting your eyes, you want to choose and wear sunglasses that offer UV protection. These sunglasses should indicate that when you purchase them, and then you should wear them all the time. Not listed here, but there are other things like seeking shade. If you're at a park or at maybe your child's soccer game, maybe bring an umbrella. And then try to limit your exposure between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2. I realize that's not always possible, but if you're doing things like gardening or maybe walking the dog, maybe try to do that, first thing in the morning or later in the day. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about early detection, because we know even those of us who try our very best to protect ourselves from UV exposure, we know that it's not. We can't always, it can't always be done, and we can still develop a melanoma. And we also know that there are other areas of the body that even those that are unexposed that can, you can find a melanoma there. So early detection is so important. If you find it very early, your overall prognosis is very good. Next slide. So some of the things that people are familiar with, and we have a video if anyone's ever interested for going forward. There's the A, B, C, D, E's of melanoma. A for asymmetry, one half does not look like the other. So that's one thing you look for. You look for the borders. Are they irregular? Are they poorly defined? Color, do they vary from one area to another, meaning the different shades? Melanomas are usually greater than 6 millimeters. That's the size of a pencil eraser. But I'm very cautious about this one because melanomas can be smaller. So that's just one of things to look for. And then there is evolving. Is there a mole or skin lesion that looks different from the rest? They seem to be changing over time. And really anything that you find concerning that's unusual, you haven't seen before, we strongly, don't ignore it. It can't hurt consulting your doctor or dermatologist just to make sure that it's nothing you need to be worried about. One of the things that I recommend for people is that if you're not sure, take a picture of it, and then you could follow it over time to see if that is changing or if it's something that you should be, concerned about. Next slide. So how do you find this? Well, a skin self-exam is extremely important, and learning how to perform a skin self-exam for yourself and for your loved ones can literally save your life. Most melanomas are actually found by individuals or their loved ones, and much smaller is by the healthcare providers. So I'm just going to go through some hints, and really all of this can be found on our website. But the first thing to do is to perform a monthly head-to-toe skin exam. I personally choose a day that is easy for me to remember to perform this exam. And for me, it's the first day of the month. Maybe it's the first weekend. You just pick a day that works best for you and stick with it, mark it on a calendar if that would help. Since you'll need to remove all of your clothing, a good time would be just before a shower or a bath or right before you go to bed, for example. If you have a partner, ask for help so they can find those hard to see areas. Dr. Sutton, you talked about your friend's back. My guess is, that mole was found, that melanoma, from someone else who saw it and thought it was unusual and needed to be checked out. And then again, of course, and actually I want to back up a second. When we talk about partners, it could also be your hairstylist. It could be somebody, who's looking at your hair pretty regularly, or those other areas, and they could help identify something that is unusual. And then again, any new moles or lesions or changes in existing moles or lesions should be checked out by a healthcare provider right away. Next slide. So I'm just going to run through real briefly how to do a skin exam. And again, I know I keep saying this, but it's on our website. If you want to reach out, I'd be happy to send the link to you. The first step is to examine your head. Again, even look behind ears, through your scalp. And step 2, again, maybe a barber or a hairstylist. But if you don't have someone who can help you, use a hair dryer and a mirror. Next slide. Step 3, you want to examine your entire front torso. Step 4, don't forget your back. And again, I can't stress enough that you need to also be looking at areas that are not exposed to UV radiation, since there are subtypes of melanoma that do appear in those areas. So step 5, you examine your lower body. And again, between your legs, your toes, all areas need to be examined. And then my last slide. So again, being diligent in prevention and early detection of melanoma and really any skin cancer is really key for your best chances of overall survival. And that is our website. So if you have any questions, all of this information is there. I also want to mention Melissa, who you heard from earlier, can also be reached through our website. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sam. So there really is a method to our madness. Many people think about sunscreen and the sun and protecting when the summer starts, and we're getting toward the end of the summer, but it's important. The sun is always there. And like Sam said, she was even talking about the way it can reflect off of the snow. So it's important that you protect your skin throughout the entire year, even though many of us really do focus on the summer. And I'm probably very guilty of that. Like I have my little spray with me in the summer and I don't know where it is in the winter. So this was an excellent presentation, Sam. We had a few comments in the chat and we do have a few minutes. So I do want to go back to them. There was one question about, this was good. So Amy asked, sometimes people say you need to expose yourself to the sun a bit to get vitamin D. What do you say about that?
I am very familiar with that. There are healthier ways to receive your vitamin D. If you do have any concerns about being insufficient with vitamin D, that's a great discussion to have with your healthcare provider. I'm sure they could work with you on finding vitamins or food or certain foods that are high in vitamin D, so that you can make sure that you get the necessary amount needed. Again, yes, you do get vitamin D, but it's, you know, the risk, the benefit is, you know, it's sort of the risk of getting a melanoma or really any other skin cancer outweighs the benefits from getting the vitamin D you need from the sun. So great question.
That was a really good question. And then we have Hannah. So Hannah asked two questions. So the one she asked most recently was, is it true that the bottom of your feet tends to be the first place that melanoma will appear?
Well, melanoma can appear really anywhere on your body. You know, certain group people of color you might see in like called acral melanoma tend to appear in certain areas like bottom of the feet, in the nails. But the majority of melanomas is in the non-Hispanic white population. And although they can also get acral melanoma or mucosa melanoma, most of their melanomas do appear on the skin. In case of your friend, there's the back. For my sister, she didn't even have a primary. We don't know where the primary was. I personally had a melanoma many years ago. I won't go into how long ago, but mine was on my arm. And so it can really appear anywhere. Great question.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
have one question and then we're going to switch segments. But Sam, since you're going to be here, if you don't mind going in the chat once we're finished to kind of answer any other questions, because I know Hannah had another one that was interesting about the ocean. So I'm interested in your thoughts about that. But my question is, about a year or so ago, there were news articles talking about like UV drying, nail drying, when you get like gel nails and stuff. Clearly I stopped because I was concerned. So what have you heard about that? What do maybe some of the data show about your risk when you go get your nails done and you have like UV drying?
That's another great question. Wow. I did not expect that one, but it is a great question. So it's still unclear, is my understanding, of whether or not those dryers do cause melanoma and other skin cancers. Me personally, again, I'm concerned about the risk of developing. I mean, I'm a walking skin cancer. So anything that I can do to avoid developing any type of skin cancer. Again, since there are other ways one can get their nails done, it's probably better until there's more data to determine whether or not we should be using them. But again, great question.
Thank you so much. So Sam is going to be around. She'll be in the chat. So feel free to continue to drop your questions there. We really appreciate this. This is really good, important information that we all need to know. So thank you so much, Sam. All right. So we are going to switch over to yet another good segment now. We are going to hear from Tamise Spencer-Helms, who is going to talk to us about her organization called Subculture. To give you a little bit of information about Tamise, she's a published author, a speaker, a theologian. She is based in Richmond, Virginia. At 19 years old, she was drawn to full-time ministry. After 16 years, Tamise went on to found Subculture Incorporated, and it's an nonprofit that provides holistic support and crisis relief for Black college students. And I'm gonna let her dive a little bit into that herself. She has a bachelor's degree in religious studies and copywriting, a master's of arts in contextual leadership, a master's of arts in theology, and is currently getting her doctorate in social transformation. Woo, okay, go ahead, girl. And so we are really excited to have Tamise here with us to talk about something that a local organization that many of us may not know about, but I definitely think that we should know more about it. So Tamise, thank you so much for being here with us, and I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just give me 1 second to pull up my PowerPoint here. That was a really, really helpful presentation. So I'm thankful for that. I was taking notes. Can everyone see my slide okay? Just want to make sure that the slides are showing up.
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Well, my name, like Dr. Sutton said, my name is Tamise Spencer-Helms. I can't see you all, so I'm just going to trust that you're engaged. My name is Tamise Spencer-Helms. I live in Richmond, Virginia, and I started Subculture Incorporated in 2018. I'd love to tell you the story of Subculture and then answer any questions you might have. So in this picture, you'll see a picture of two students when I was on campus in Atlanta, Georgia. We did some outreach, and one of the outreaches that we did was, if you could ask God anything, what would it be? the answers to those questions really sent me on a quest and actually kind of bothered me a little bit because my students were asking for actual tangible help. And all I was offering them as a campus minister at that time, working for a predominantly white organization, was theoretical help. And so I began to be haunted by the realities that show up in Maslow's pyramid, that a lot of the needs of my students were not being met on a physical, physiological, emotional level. And so what I tried to do in 2018 was figure out a way to make something that would come alongside those ministries and organizations to reinforce the wheel rather than reinvent it. So I'm going to play a video here, and these are from some of my students who were the first kind of recipients of what subculture had to offer. And then I'll tell you a little bit more about our organization.
First year of college, my dad was diagnosed with lymphoma.
Second semester, sophomore year, I tested positive for HIV.
I got a letter on my dorm room door.
10 days later, I lost my dad.
I had truly given up.
I either had to pay the money or leave.
It completely just shattered my world. I lost a parent, but I also lost someone that was helping me with my money for school, helping me get financially enrolled.
Being positive, trying to balance having money for medicine, then having money to live, and having to have money to, pay for school, it was a big struggle.
My grades were pretty good, and I just truly felt at a loss because it just happens all at once. It's not something that you anticipate.
I only did a year there, and then I ended up leaving again and just working.
So I did not know what to do in any area of my life. I was mentally and emotionally just all over the place, and then there was a financial burden that was now here.
I had to come home, go to community college, and start all over again because I didn't have the funds to release my transcript.
Honestly, I kind of forgot about school, and then the opportunity just arose again, and I went back, and finally, I'll be graduating.
They gave me a scholarship, and so I was able to return back to school, and here I am now.
That's really, truly the only reason why I'm standing here today.
All right. So I kept watching my students have to leave school for various reasons that I watched their counterparts not have to deal with. And the one thing that was missing for those students was a web of support. And so in 2018, like I said, I started Subculture, and Subculture is a nonprofit that seeks to eradicate the barriers that Black students face in accessing and completing higher education. Obviously, the reasons behind that cause have to do with educational disparities. They have to do with racial and social injustice, but also just the needs of these students often go overlooked by those in power and positions of leadership in their lives unless someone draws specific attention to them. Here are some statistics that I won't read out for you. If anyone wants these statistics, we can share them with you. But Black students often encounter inequities that have historical roots, and they encounter these inequities at a much greater rate than their counterparts do. 7.9 million Black students are enrolled in public schools. 65% of them are independent, meaning that they have to do it by themselves. A lot of students, in addition to that, are taking care of their families back home. 46% complete their degree in 6 years, and that's a lower rate compared to their counterparts. So what we're trying to do in response to these things is to develop a web of support that takes into account what Chev has identified as the 4 needs that a student has to do well in college, which is preparedness for college life, basic needs being met, a sense of belonging, and mental health. And so what we've decided to do is tailor our programs to create pathways for these students. Now, all of our programs fall into one of these 3 categories: academic support pathways, holistic well-being pathways, or social flourishing pathways. And on the left-hand side, you can see here, these are some of our programs. We do HBCU food pantries. We build stock and support food pantries all over HBCUs all over the country. When you visit our website, all of the partnering schools that we have are linked right there on our website. We have our student transition and crisis relief, which is what my students were talking about in the video, where we step in when a student is facing an emergency that threatens their enrollment, their employment, or their academic success. Then we have our college to and through programs. That's a college prep program. And the way that we do that is if a high school senior goes through our college prep program, we'll pay for up to 3 of their applications to college. And then our subculture fellows program, we'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute, but we're very excited about that program. That's a year-long program where a student gets a mentor, they have augmented financial aid, they get a stipend, and then they also are automatically enrolled in life skills and professional development seminars. We are thinking through homegoing trips, which takes students to Africa to work on racial identity development. We've developed Subculture Pride, which provides no-cost mental health for Black trans and LGBTQ plus students. We have strategic partnerships in place, and then we offer workshops, cohorts, and seminars for those that are seeking to effectively engage Black students. So what ended up happening for us, though, in 2021, we posted some statistics around Black students during Pride Month, and it was related to Black trans students. And as a result of that post, we received a lot of our donors that had started out with us, who had followed me out of some of those white organizations to help me start Subculture, began to pull their financial resources and pull their financial support, leaving us kind of in a really precarious situation because they did not appreciate our advocacy for Black trans students. It was a very interesting conversation. I had a lot of conversations, during that year with different individuals that for us, that's what we always meant when we said faith-based. We always meant that all Black students would receive support and help for us. We had students reach out to us about being homeless. And so that kind of started our real digging into some of these issues and to make it something that we're proudly advocating for on our page. And so in light of all of that, we're in a situation where we're having to start all over again and rebuild our base, which I hope is something that you all will find intriguing. This is what I wanted to tell you about. We have just solidified our partnership with Reynolds Community College. So we'll be working with community college students right here in the area. Bernadette and I are working together to build out our fellows program. We received a $20,000 grant from Town Bank for a beta of 5 students. Reynolds has 15 students. And so now we're trying to match that donation that we received from Town Bank so that all of those students can be involved in the program. And so for those of you who are interested in how to support our work, there are several entry points. You can do a sponsorship, which is a large one-time donation. You can do a recurring monthly donation, which helps our operations, helps us to hire staff and take care of staff, stock donations, and then roundups where you don't have to think about it. You swipe your card anywhere in the US, and the change from that purchase goes to supporting Black students. And here are some of the benefits of the sponsorship. So this is something that we just rolled out this year. You'll be recognized on our website. You'll get an invitation to the virtual panel that we hold with our board of directors. And you'll also get virtual meet and greets with our scholarship recipients. And so we're looking for folks to come in as sponsors, particularly behind that fellows program. And these are the beneficiaries. This is where your donation and your support goes. It goes to support Black students. It goes to support marginalized students. So we are working with all students of color on community colleges because we find that there's a large concentration of students who have marginalized identities on those campuses, whether it's class or some other ethnic identity. And we want to make sure that we help those students out too. And then LGBTQ+. And so some of the support will go directly into us paying the licensed mental health therapists and building out our Subculture Pride program. This is a picture of our beautiful board and staff. I'm the only staff at the moment, but we have a beautiful board, and I'm very excited about the years that are coming before us. If you're looking for ways to support us, this is our phone number. I can put our website into the chat. It's www.subcultureinc.org. And I want to end with this because this is, I think, a quote that sums up what the impetus was for me in starting this organization. And it's from Desmond Tutu, and it's Bishop Desmond Tutu, and it says, "I don't preach a social gospel. I preach the gospel, period. The gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ is concerned for the whole person. When people were hungry, Jesus didn't say, 'Now, is that political or social?' He said, 'I feed you,' because the good news to a hungry person is bread." So with that, I just want to thank you so much for taking time to hear about what we do and who we are, and would love to talk to you more about partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tamise. I am ecstatic to see about your new partnership with J. Sargent Reynolds. That was exciting news to me because we just talked a month ago. So I'm glad to hear that. And I wonder for you, what are you looking for to come of this partnership? Like, you got the grant, now you're working with them, and what are some of the outcomes that you're looking for with regard to working with these students?
Right. So a lot of the outcomes that we're looking for with Reynolds in particular is kind of coming alongside their mentoring programs. So they've been seeking out someone to develop curriculum and programs for mentoring in particular, for their WISE program and their Real Women program. In addition to that, retention is important. And so when Bernadette and I had the first conversation about it, we talked about these four, main needs, and that the students on campus most students had two of the four happening for them, and two of the four were missing. And so we said, well, that's what we exist to do. We exist to come alongside universities, organizations, churches, ministries to reinforce the wheel. And so we think that we'll help J. Sargent, particularly with its retention, and with the quality and the type of students and the type of schools their students get into after being involved in our program.
Great. And so there were a couple of individuals in the chat that thanked you for the information. I will say this, and I think you may be able to say, yes, absolutely, you're on point here. So we meet with our faith leaders too. And one of the things that Dr. Brown, who works with us, talked about is college students and the mental health. And so we know pretty much everyone on this call, it has some kind of touch point to a college student, whether they're in your church, whether they're if you're like me and you work for the university, whether they're in your communities. And so I would say that, this organization, not only would it be great to refer students to, but like Tamise stated, there is a need for funding as well. And so she's just put the link in the chat. We'll send out more information here about it because, like I said, if you have students that you think need to engage, definitely go ahead and link them up. If you have ways or that you can help to support the organization, I'm sure you would be appreciative of that as well, correct?
Yes, indeed.
All right, good. So thank you so much for being with us, Tamise. And again, I say congratulations on your funding. We know that's a hard thing to come by. We know around here. So congratulations. And thank you for sharing with us.
Alrighty.
So we have a couple of key takeaways today. So we thank Sam and we thank Tamise. One of the things I was going to quickly do a quick poll, but I was like, no, I'm not going to do a true or false poll because I think everyone better get the answer right. And so if I asked you all, regardless of your race, ethnicity, sunscreen is a yes for you at all times. I think everybody would say true, thumbs up. Okay, there we go. I didn't even want to see a false because we would have had to start this all over again for the 3:00 hour. So, all right. And then with regard to Tamise's presentation, we know that college students, it's very difficult to be in college. There's a lot of stress. And then there are individuals because of, their race, ethnicity, because of their sexual gender minority status, et cetera, that may have a more challenging time. And so her organization is here to help those individuals. And, now that we have the knowledge, we can also do our part to help. Again, I thank you all for joining us today. And Dr. Ross, if you don't mind praying for us.
Let us bow. Dear Lord, we thank you for the authority that you've given us to have dominion over your creation, but not over one another. Thank you for the angels, O Lord, who serve as stewards of medicine and health and wellness and wholeness, and who have blessed us this day. And bless the fellowship that we share, dear Lord, in this family, as we seek to nurture one another. Keep us now while we're absent one from another, and may your anointing ever be upon us. We ask for your name's sake. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Everyone go out and enjoy the rest of your Friday and weekend. Sunscreen first. And we will see you next month. Thank you.